welcome to episode 306 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans Weekly Podcast and Many Topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and we are here back again to discuss the second half and overall themes and overall feelings about Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. This is a sequel to our September 2020 episodes on Persona 2 Innocent Sin, and we are back again with most of the same panel. Let's introduce them. They start with Zach Wilkerson.
Hello.
And Leona McCallum.
Hi.
And Alana Hagues.
Heya.
So, Zach, Leona, Alana, I am going to start this episode off with an apology. I did not finish Persona 2 in time for recording. That is an entirely me problem. I had a couple difficult days in a row scattered here and there with some family stuff here, some mental health bad days there, some very busy work days there. It just, the universe conspired against me to finish this game in time, and it culminated a couple nights ago where I finally got out of the Undersea Ruins at a very ungodly hour, and then I just decided I didn't want to play Persona 2 anymore.
You got out of the Undersea Ruins, but at what cost?
Yeah. It did not.
I wasn't sure I wanted to play Persona 2 after the Undersea Ruins either. So I understand.
Yeah, so that was only a couple days ago, and I did finish that dungeon. It did not break me permanently. I just need to have an extended hospital stay following it. But yeah, I think I need the golden fingers to help recover from that. Persona 2 Eternal Punishment's longest, most annoying dungeon stymied me a little bit, and I think I do want to revisit this game and finish it eventually, because I was genuinely enjoying 90% of it. But Alana and Zach, this is also your first time playing Persona 2, so I want your overall impressions first before we get into the meat of the discussion.
So I on the last podcast, I feel like I was like kind of negative about Eternal Punishment, and I still think it is an inferior game to Innocent Sin. But overall, I liked it better in the second half. But if I'm being honest with you, one of the main reasons I liked it better in the second half is because it became more about Innocent Sin, and all the stuff with Tatsuya, and sort of like finding out that like this whole story was just a bunch of nonsense. The same way that it wasn't Innocent Sin, but like I feel like it still lacks the psychological impact. I do think there are some interesting thematic things that I'd like to talk about in terms of the way the ending wraps up and like the way that it deals with childhood and adulthood and things like that, which I find interesting. I'm not sure if I agree with it, but I think it's interesting. But it still, to me, doesn't have the same punch that Innocent Sin did. But I did enjoy it overall.
So yeah, I mean, I really liked it consistently throughout, but also I think, again, yes, I think it lacks the punch of Innocent Sin for sure, because I think the dynamic of the cast are just not as good. They feel like they've just kind of been bundled together a little bit more, rather than like the characters who all have this link together. And again, like the minute Tatsuya joins, I think Tatsuya, it's funny that like Maya is maybe my favorite character in Innocent Sin along with Jun, and my favorite character in Eternal Punishment might actually be Tatsuya, given the way that they deal with his character. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about with him as well. And yeah, it just really, really lifts the game, I think. In particular, like, the final dungeon of Eternal Punishment is by far the best part of the game. Like, everything, the way that it, like, introduces... It's almost a little bit too late, I think. It starts to bring up these, like, it brings back, like, the shadows and things like that, and does the same thing that, like, the temple dungeons do in Innocent Sin. To say, like, I'm sounding a little bit, like, negative here, Eternal Punishment has basically cemented Persona 2 as my favorite Persona game. Like, I just think I don't think Eternal Punishment is, I don't want to say it's not necessary, but I certainly don't think, I don't know, it's not that it doesn't bring anything new to the table, and I think that's kind of the point, but I certainly enjoyed playing essentially two sides of the same coin, or playing, I don't know, the mirror and the reflection, I guess, to make a small illusion that I might jump back in and out of a few times.
Oh no, does that mean we're going to have to talk about the TV studio dungeon again?
I'm not going to talk about it, but like mirrors are a pretty important thing in, I mean, they're like the most obvious like illusion literary device you could use, and it's pretty prominent here, subtly, but It's there. But yeah, Eternal Punishment is great. I really, really liked it. It's not as good as Innocent Sin in a number of ways. But I do like some of the ways it deals with themes of adulthood, and I'm interested in how it applies it. Like Zach says, I don't know if I necessarily agree with all of it, but I certainly, in a weird way, as much as I related to the Innocent Sin cast, there's also a lot of aspects of the Eternal Punishment cast where I'm like, huh, yeah, you know, I see myself in Tatsuya most maybe as the kid who's like, I want to be an adult. How do you be an adult? I deal with all my problems on my own. But we'll get to that. So yeah, I love Eternal Punishment, but maybe not as much as Innocent Sin.
One thing that you both mentioned about the characters, how you think that the sort of, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, you think that the sort of group dynamic in Innocent Sin was better and tighter than the character relationships in Eternal Punishment. And I think that is where I'm landing on this too. In the first episode, I was probably more positive on Eternal Punishment than Innocent Sin because I just loved Ulala, Katsuya, and Baofu, and I still do. But like I think they're more interesting individuals than maybe the teenagers in Innocent Sin,
Mhm.
but when you bring the the group dynamic of the teenagers together and their connection through the masked circle and everything that happens with June and how June and Tatsuya sort of rekindle their friendship, like that makes them a lot more like I think the Innocent Sin cast is more interesting as a group, but the Eternal Punishment cast is very strong. They just don't have the same group dynamic of the Innocent Sin cast. Is how I felt after going through the factory dungeon and learning about what Baofu's deal is,
Mhm.
and sort of more strongly remembering what Innocent Sin was. And that reminds me of something that we mentioned last episode. But Leona, you played Eternal Punishment before Innocent Sin,
Uh-huh.
so did any of the Tatsuya stuff in Eternal Punishment for the first 2/3 of the game and make sense at all? Did
Uh,
why was this teenager 40 levels ahead of you in one fight and seems to know everything in advance and can pilot submarines and zeppelins? Did was it as crazy as it felt watching it play out?
the whole game felt crazy. So at that point, I was just kind of going along with it. Like when I first played it, it was Persona 2 plays and presents its narrative in a very different way than any other JRPG I've ever played. So I was expecting it all just to make sense at the end, and to a degree it did. Like on the first playthrough, well confused for most of it. By the end, I was like, okay.
Yeah, the final dungeon like replays basically the entire end
Hmm.
sequence of
Yeah.
Innocent Sin. So like you do basically know what happens if you don't play it. It's not ideal, but like I think something Zach said last episode is that actually you didn't necessarily need that going in, and I don't think you do. Like now having reached the end of it, like I think it's a good thing to do because again it's two sides of the same coin, but like I think you're just kind of approaching it in a different way. Like you're essentially, if you haven't played Innocent Sin, then you're
Uh-huh.
approaching it as like somebody who's, oh god, this is going to sound really obnoxious, isn't it? Like you're essentially approaching it as someone who's lived in this side. Whereas if you've done it, if you've
Right.
played Innocent Sin, you're playing it as somebody who's come from the other side, like Tatsuya, and you're like, you have all this knowledge, so you can apply it right from the get go. Whereas if you've only
Hmm.
played, if you haven't played any of the others, and you're just jumping into Eternal Punishment, you can be like, oh, okay, now I don't know what's going on. Let's try and find out.
It's interesting because I feel like in some ways, I actually think that playing Eternal Punishment first might have been the superior experience. I don't know. I mean, because I feel like because this game spends 85% of its playtime holding its cards, and if you played
Hmm.
Innocent Sin first,
Yeah.
like all of this is just like nonsense. It's set up by Nyarlathotep. Because you've played Innocent Sin first, like it's all just like crap, and like you're waiting for Tatsuya just to like tell them what happened, and like what happened as the player if
Hmm.
you've played Innocent Sin first. Like I feel like one of the things that frustrated me over the course of Eternal Punishment and why I like the last 10% of the game or 15% of the game way better than the rest of it was like, okay, now we're really looking at the consequences of
Mhm.
Innocent Sin. Whereas if I hadn't played Innocent Sin first, I've been like, ooh, mystery, 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 mystery. And like now we see the consequences. And then if we go back, there's so many things like that are never really explained during the course of Eternal Punishment that like if you're playing Innocent Sin, there still would be some mysteries. Whereas if you're playing Eternal Punishment, after Innocent Sin, there really aren't any mysteries. Like the final dungeon or the final boss is literally exactly the same. I mean, like it's not.
Wait, you fight the Great Father again?
Well,
It's
Nyarlathotep is the Great Father. That's the point,
Right.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Zach. I think you're right. I think to some degree, playing Eternal Punishment first is the less maybe frustrating experience, because at that point you're going less from waiting for someone to drop the plot that you already know, that and then you're going to Innocent Sin where it's more like, okay, now I'm just invested in these character dramas, which is less frustrating, I think.
I'm not sure I can agree with that, because but this is definitely something about me. I hate not knowing things. So
Mhm.
like if I were to play this game, if I were to play the games out of order all the way through, I would be so frustrated not understanding what was
Uh-huh.
going on when it felt like I was supposed to know a few things that had happened. Like just like going to the very beginning of the game, you talk to a bunch of people in the courtyard, including June's dad and the other woman named Maya, and oh shoot, the schoolgirl that was in the evil mask circle in Innocent Sin. You know, the track star. You know
I
her
know
name.
what you mean. Yeah.
Lady Scorpio.
Yeah.
Yes, Lady Scorpio. It's like the idea that I'm supposed to know these characters, but they aren't telling me anything, is so annoying to me.
I get that as well.
So,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
I think that maybe it just depends on the player, whether EP then IS or IS then EP is
Mhm.
the more ideal order. I think for me, for my own sanity, I probably should play IS first, which I already have, fortunately. But maybe for Leona, like Leona, your experience playing Eternal Punishment, then eventually Innocent Sin, might have been your ideal experience. So I don't think either of them is wrong, but I'm glad I did it the way I did.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. I can see both sides definitely.
I-
And I mean like to like go jump in like expand on your point a little bit, Sollosi, like interestingly enough, you saying like you not knowing any of the characters or anything like that, and feeling like you're dropped into things, like that's no different from playing Innocent Sin first either, I guess. Like that's the whole pacing of these games, right? You're just kind of thrown in, and like you don't have to like have any establishment or anything like that. I know it's kind of weird saying that about like a sequel, or I guess it's not really a sequel, it's the other side.
Mhm.
Like you're just thrown into it in both situations, in both games, and like even if you know everybody, it's still like, hang on a minute, why don't I know everybody? What's going on? Why are these things different? Why is the Joker still going around? But if you didn't know that, then you'd still be asking the same questions. You just would have even less of an idea of what's going on, I suppose. So
Well, that's why you comb in all of the hallways of both high schools and talk to every kid in those classrooms
nope.
while there is still random battles going on. This is an Innocent Sin, mind you.
Yep.
Like I don't know. Like I don't mind the conceit of going around town and talking to everyone in between major events to learn about the events and learn about the people and places in the town. I like that, but I hated it in Innocent Sin that they kept random battles in all of the same dungeons.
Right, yeah. Yeah. I can't think of another Japanese RPG that does that really. Like apart from like Modern Days Trails, obviously, but I think it's very different in I say modern day trails, I mean like all Trails games basically.
Modern day Kiseki, I should say modern day Legend of Heroes.
Yeah, from
slash,
Sky onwards.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is the Kiseki games. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Like, but it makes Sumaru feel very alive, and I think we said that last year. Like, I don't think there's another RPG town like Sumaru or city like Sumaru, because of that, like talking to everybody. But
and how each of the different wards or districts or whatever you want to call them have their own sort of character just based on the shops they're in and
right.
the makeup of the city. It is a little too bad that that Sumaru City's overworld map is even less detailed than say that of Super Mario World, but uh but it's still cool that the way they have it arranged and all the different people and places in them do make it feel lived in and alive, especially with the more interesting storefronts like oh shoot, like the bar that has the man search lady.
The ramen shop. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
ramen shop woman who's not that, she's a weapons dealer in the first game, and
Right.
Yeah. Who's not a Russian spy?
and all of the different shops that replace an inn in an RPG, and things like accidentally spreading a rumor about a boating accident will mean you you accidentally kill off the armor shop lady.
Oh God, yeah, I did that. Yeah,
I totally did that just because I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna do all the rumors
Yeah.
because that's what you do in an RPG. You check boxes off a list, and I killed the nice armor shop lady.
oh,
It's a
God.
50. Is it like it's like a 50-50 whether she
I
comes back?
I reset
Yeah.
on that because then like if she does come back, then you get like you get like a very good piece of armor.
What?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you
Yeah,
do. I
yeah.
didn't have the patience.
How
For that. I
un-
did. I did it with
okay.
the gun, but I got the gun the first go. So
Oh, nice.
because you can spread the rumor for Parabellum as well, which is the bar which
Mhm.
sells all the weapons.
The
you can get
dragoon, yeah.
the dragoon. Yep, I got that gun.
No way I wasn't gonna have a dragoon gun. Come on.
Was that from the end game weapon rumor that you have to go to the shrine to pick up?
No, that's
Okay.
slightly different, isn't it? That's for the
Yes.
weaponsmith,
That-
isn't it? So
yeah,
you can
that's for the
That's the
ultimate
legendary weapon,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
That-
legendary
that's,
weapons.
okay, that's what I was thinking of, and that goes into another point. Is there any way for the player to know that there is a 50-50 or some percentage chance that you get a special item or don't?
Of course not. Why
I
would
know.
it?
If I was playing this game without a
So-
guide, I would have been like banging my head against the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
It's very, very possible that I am spoiled by modern video games, but I think that this is we're gonna jump all over the place this episode, so I don't mind doing things slightly out of order. I think this game has so much breadth and depth with what you can do that it's great. Like I love that there are 2 or 3 optional dungeons and some truly insane dives you can deep down into. Or wait, I think I might have said some words out of order there. But
Mix the metaphor too.
Perhaps people in glass houses sink ships. But like the map maker guy, that is an insane amount of effort for for a side quest that yields some pretty good rewards, but it is totally fair to not go
Only if the RNG loves you.
Right.
For me.
And it's a good reward, but it's a tedious quest that maybe doesn't always work out. And things like the legendary weapons, how is the player supposed to know to go to the shrine and then talk to 3 other NPCs to get the legendary weapon to unlock the weaponsmith that you can give materials to eventually forge stuff, and the stuff about spreading the rumor about the boating accident gives you a 50-50 chance of changing the armor shop fashion boutique lady and possibly getting you an extra weapon.
I love that though.
And
She just comes back like renewed that
Yeah.
she almost had a near-death experience.
Yeah, maybe the craziest one of all. And I read ahead a little bit about this because I don't even remember why. You can probably guess what's going to happen here. Near the end of the game, when you're a little bit before the final dungeon, if you go to Double Slash, the internet cafe, and there's a girl who asks you about your horoscope, and she asks you what month you were born in.
Yeah.
If you write in if you write in Hastur come forth.
Yes, I did this.
In that
Oh, I did too.
Yeah, in that space where I was writing FEB because I was born in February. But if you write Hastur come forth, you get mysteriously an item mailed to you that allows you to fuse an end game persona called Hastur, which is
It was extremely good. Yeah.
Like it reflects all magic.
It's
broken.
It's extremely powerful, and it's from the Lovecraftian mythos, kind of similar to Nyarlathotep, the maybe overall boss of the series. But I don't think there is a single breadcrumb in town telling you can do that.
I wonder if it's like one of those, promotional things that happen when a game's getting released, like scratch off this can of Coke and you'll get a code for Persona 2.
Mew is in the parking van.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah, sort of like a Star Tropics thing where you scratch things off. Yeah, I mean, like, I understand your point, Sollosi. Like, I think the point you're making is like there is like so much depth that you, without a guide, you can't even access. And I do think it's a weakness of the game, and especially like in 2001, like I beat this game at like level 57 probably.
Yeah.
Like I would have been, you would have had to grind. I would have had to grind like probably 15 more levels if I didn't follow a guide that told me exactly what to do to get exactly the right demons and exactly the right spell cards to fuse exactly the right spells. And I still feel like I grinded like a fair amount in this game. I don't feel like it plays fair sometimes, but like the internet in 2021 allows it to play fair for me, so like that part didn't bother me too much.
Right? Yeah.
I kind of see it like a double-edged sword. Like when it comes to guides in JRPGs with me, I sometimes feel like I wish I never looked, because what I don't know can't hurt me, and the amount of work that sometimes has to go into a game, and I could have completed the game without ever knowing and still being perfectly happy without doing these
I
sort of
felt like that
ridiculous
during
side
Innocent
quests.
Sin.
Yeah.
Not during this game. Oh my goodness, not during this game. There's no way I beat that final boss if I don't follow a guide.
I actually did okay with the final boss of Innocent Sin. I had a really weird setup at the end, but I had like the ultimate sword magic spells and the great when you
You
do
have Grand Cross, yeah.
Yeah. No,
I think that
I didn't use
Innocent Sin is automatically set to easy mode.
Yeah.
And Eternal Punishment is not on the final boss.
Yeah, no, the final boss is the hardest boss in the game. Yeah.
Oh, this is going to sound ridiculous. You know what I thought was the hardest boss of the game that I had faced so far?
Go on.
In Eternal Punishment, I did not get to the end. Again, I finished the Undersea Ruins and that was it.
Is it the TV studio boss?
No,
No?
the boss in the nightclub, the damn schoolgirl that can charm you.
Oh yeah,
like I had to use it took me 3 tries because she charmed my healer and like one other character or something, and I got completely hosed. But like I thought that this game was not very challenging as long as you keep up to date with personas and things like spell fusions. And the grind is pretty manageable because they're generous with SP stuff, but the way you're describing the end game and something that Zach brought up. I don't need guides to beat an RPG. I've played many RPGs and finished them without using guides, but I always like having the guide there as an option. If there's something I want to look up quickly, I like to be able to go on the internet and click 3 links and find what I need. And and if I didn't have that for Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, I would have been way more frustrated. But for the most part, I thought that the pacing of the game was good. The city is fun to explore. The dungeons, with one notable exception, or okay, maybe 2 exceptions, are at least manageable, and a lot of the time they're arranged sort of sensibly. Like Smile Mall is basically a 4 floors mall, like right, and it's not like a maze that has offshoots for treasure. It's an actual layout of like a retail space. Like I thought that the dungeon designs were usually okay until they weren't, but I just wish there was more signposting. It's just, if there was a way I could hear something in town that would point me to the more obscure things in town, so that there was a tangible path for me to organically learn about Hastur instead of learning about it in a Wikia page, because that's definitely how I found it. So I wish there was more of that, but on its own, and with the option of checking a guide if I needed to, I thought this was just a really strong RPG. It deliberately hides things from the player, but there's a lot of intrigue. The characters are consistently entertaining, and the combat stuff, which you went into in pretty good detail in the previous episode, was usually fun, at least. Like I think this is a great PS1 game, and I think I am going to finish it before the end of the year. But let's go talk about the end game a little bit, because I don't know exactly how this happens. Please enlighten me. Do the timelines converge? Does when Tatsuya explains everything, what are the stakes of the story other than stopping Tatsuzo from flipping the Earth's magnetic poles?
Oh boy.
It gets a bit further than that, but that is still kind of the goal for the next big section. Like, you're going to Torifune, which is like the equivalent of Xibalba in this world, that they've re-resurrected or dug up, essentially, to stop Tatsuzo from summoning the great dragons, the 12 dragons, to do the same sort of thing as Grand Cross, basically.
Okay, the 12 dragons from the Wanglong fortune telling, which is
yes,
which is folklore or myth that enough people believe in for it to become real.
Yeah, Wanglong is not a real fortune in real life either. So, yeah, and actually, technically, even though the 12 dragons aren't a real thing either.
Hey, the 12 dragons are real. You have to kill all 12 to get the Crusader Esper.
Oh, okay, fine.
Actually, that's also 8 dragons. So I am just.
I know.
A little bit of evidence.
But yeah, basically the 12 dragons are supposed to be like the equivalent of the 12 months of the year, which is why there are 12 like fortunes you can get from the woman in 2/, and it's meant like, because essentially at the end of the day, like Tatsuo is being controlled by, guess who? Nyarlathotep. And Nyarlathotep basically has come up with the estate, because he can't redo Grand Cross, so he's come up with the equivalent of a Grand Cross astral kind of like star signy type thing, which is to do with these 12 dragons which associate with the 12 months, and
he used his own curse to make it real.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so that's essentially where it goes. But can we have like one tiny moan about how bad the Undersea Ruins is before? Because that's right.
Oh my god,
it's awful.
First of all,
I was also mapping that dungeon.
Oh no!
Oh,
Oh no!
It was just my key error.
Yeah, that is. I spent 4 hours in there and I didn't map it. So
Yeah, I was. It took me right around 3.5 or 4 hours, and I wasn't trying to map it. I wasn't trying to get to the treasure room, because that's
I did.
Oh my god!
I got to the treasure room.
I did the treasure
So-
room
so
too.
I did the treasure room.
The cards are worth it.
Yeah.
But so you found, oh my god, what's her name? You found the rare demon and got the.
I found her 7 times.
Yeah,
That's
I got
how many
her
times
lots
it
of
took me to contact her to get that rumor.
Yep. Yeah, she was a bit of a nightmare. And like, I don't know if we said this in the last episode, but like one of the other annoying things about, because actually I think demon negotiation is slightly easier in this game, but like what makes some of it really annoying is that there are some contacts where you can get a rumor to spread off of the demon, and that's new to Eternal Punishment, but it's totally random. So like every single game file, it could be a totally different demon that's carrying that rumor. Now, this demon in the Undersea Ruins usually has it, but you also have to get another one or spread it through another demon.
Yeah, it's like Leviathan's the second
Leviathan
one.
is the second one,
and
yeah.
the first one is the one that's harder to find. It's like a mermaid demon.
I didn't have too much trouble finding her. I just had to level up to the right level to get her. The problem is I was in that dungeon for so long that I got to level 46, so I was 6 levels above Leviathan. So Leviathan became a very rare demon because I was so over leveled at one point. I encountered it. I pacted with it in the cruise ship. In fact, because that was like the sensible thing to do, because I was like, oh, I'm like level 38, 39, I can do this. And then by the time I left the Undersea Ruins, I was like level 45. So it was like, great, it's now not appearing ever, yet it appeared 20 times in like half an hour for me 3 hours ago. So yeah, it is a pain in the backside, especially because like the maps are not great in this game. They're okay, and there's like holes in different sides of the rooms and the wall.
Yeah, it was like I was falling into those pitfalls like Sideshow Bob stepping onto rakes in this in this part of the game, because it's also visually uninteresting. Like the cruise ship at least had some color to it, because
it's just a big blob of gray.
Yeah, this is just a blob. Like it's like a dark blue and dark green and black that just all melds together into a gray sludge.
Yeah, it was like one big version of those like elemental like zodiac temples from Innocent Sin, and like I didn't hate those because I was like happy to just get free cards off of them. By this point, by this point it's one big long dungeon, and I had like 900 free cards. So I'm like, and I had like 900 magician cards, because my god, how annoying a magician persona in this game. They're immune to magic.
Reflector, immune to everything. I contacted them all immediately.
Yeah, I think the best way to kill them is to just use normal attacks, but I'm not doing that when I'm trained to use fusion spells all the time. So
right.
I also contacted every magician persona I found.
But you two were lucky, because the one in the Undersea Ruins, you can actually only befriend it if you've got Ellen. You cannot, or Eriko. If you do K, you can only get cards off of it. So you have to do it every single time.
So you didn't get to see Eriko's awesome fashion show.
No, but I did get to see. Oh, no, Kay doesn't have anything cool. And the other thing you should see, because Tatsuya can join in on the Flamenco de Pasión, so
I still got to see that. Yeah, the Flamenco de Pasión is maybe the best contact in the game.
No, the best contact in the game is Ulala, Balfu, and Katsuya sitting down on the floor and drinking alcohol together.
Okay, I've done that one too.
Story. All the alcohol-related ones are delightful.
They are great.
That one is really good. I also like the one, I think it's also Katsuya, Ulala, and Balfu, but in a different order, where like they stage a fake murder,
Yeah.
and like the lights go out and there's a gunshot.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's the ones where like Maya and Dulala are either talking about Balfu or Katsuya and like trying to get them married off, and it's like
Like magic, or even like just the one that's just Ulala and Maya, where they're like, which one of us ladies is the more shining beacon of ladiness? It's like, oh, it's like I don't know what's going on here, and of course I cannot get the Tatsuya. This is innocent sin and not eternal punishment, but the Tatsuya soundbite of being a man means is just the dumbest.
Oh yes.
I must have heard him say that 100 times, and it was just confusing and goofy every time.
yeah.
Oh, the
But yeah,
contacts in both of these games are just so ridiculous.
they are. But yeah, the Undersea Ruins suck, and if you do K's route, you have to fight Kandori right at the end, and it's probably the hardest boss fight in the game other than Nyarlathotep, at least
Oh,
for
wow.
me. It's hard. Mostly because you have like, do you remember the boss at the end of the factory? Which is like the 4 or 5 robots that
Yep.
just put
Yes.
seal on you.
do
over
you
and
mean
over.
do you mean me using Maca Jam and then casting Lightning Blast 3 times and winning? Because that's how it went for me.
That's
I did
also
not.
what I did.
I did not have Macajam, so I was sealed the entire fight because I
That's
hate
right.
it.
And they
But-
resist physical. So
But
fun.
yeah, Kandori is a pain in the backside because it's him and 4 of them, so it's like, great, now I've got to wipe all of them out. And I had Lightning Blast, and I was getting there very slowly. But yeah, I think it's a cool fight, though, especially because it's like a reflection of like Persona 1, and it kind of brings out, it shows how much K has like grown from the original Persona 1.
I think if you played Persona 1 and enjoyed Persona 1, which is neither of which is true for me, but then
For
do
me.
but then do K's route, like basically revisiting the Guido Kandori storyline probably is pretty cool and rewarding, because
Yeah.
you can, I mean, for even I did not play through all of Persona 1, but I could see the animosity there, and like which is maybe more specific with K than anyone else, because I think K lost a family member or something to
His
part of that
butler.
game. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got a new butler. Yeah.
That's right. And his persona is his old butler. I
His
remember
ultimate persona
Yeah.
is his old butler. Yeah.
now. Right, I remember now. But the like I think that is probably a cool character through line, but I didn't experience it, so I'm not going to comment on it too much further.
Yeah. Don't know, it's cool. But yeah, Undersea Ruins sucks. Mount Iwato is not as annoying as it was in Innocent Sin either, which is a cool
Oh,
thing.
okay. Because I'm at the foot of Mount Iwato, and I was sort of dreading it because I remember it being a little annoying in Innocent Sin, because I had to do some mask hunting in that game, and I knew that there was similar items to pick up in this game.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
too bad. They're all pretty near. It's essentially the same layout again. So like you go around Mount Iwato and you go to all the pools, and you like, it's Tatsuya talking you through basically the other side, which is the world that Tatsuya is from, and
Right.
the world I say from that Tatsuya is from. Tatsuya has taken over. Tatsuya of the other side, which is the world of Innocent Sin, has taken over the body of the Tatsuya of this
Oh.
side, which is eternal punishment. So
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
he wasn't.
they've
reme-
converged. They've basically converged. Yeah, for this.
Oh, it's 2 Tatsuyas converged, not one Tatsuya just remembering the events of the other timeline.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
literally our Tatsuya that we knew
Yeah.
from Innocent Sin.
Yeah.
Is is the reason for this happening Philemon accidentally like looking at the wrong Tatsuya Katsuya?
No, it's
Tatsuya?
No, it's
Tatsuya
not.
rejecting losing his memories at the final
Yeah.
moment,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I
We'll
see.
get to
Changed his
that.
mind at the last second.
which you don't find out until like
The
literally
end.
right before the final
I
boss.
was sort of hoping it was a clerical error, because there are too many characters that have similar sounding names in this game.
Tatsuya Suo, Tatsuya Pseudo, and Tatsuo Pseudo.
And
Yep.
Katsuya Suo.
Yeah.
And don't forget the ancient samurai warrior of 1,000 years
Oh.
past. Tatsushitasudo.
I have it written down.
Is
I'll
that
try.
is that the mummified Gozen, or is that someone else?
No, it's a different
Some-
one. So
a
we'll
different
get
one,
to that
yeah.
in a minute because it's
Different
coming up.
Different samurai man. Got it. Okay.
Another samurai man. But yeah, Mount Iwata is cool because it's just like everything kind of coming together. Like it's the start of like Tatsuya telling you the truth and that. And there's a really cool moment where like at the end you are given a choice, like Tatsuya, and this is where like, I mean, throughout the game, and I think I said this last week, and I think both Zach and I have mentioned it today, like there's a lot of discussions about like what does it mean to be an adult kind of thing. And
Being
Tatsuya
a man
kind
means...
Correct. And so Tatsuya asks at this point, or like he says, like, he's been constantly saying, like, I have to do this on my own. I have to bear my sin on my own, essentially. So, like, the sin that Tatsuya is talking about is like rejecting losing his memories and rejecting losing Maya. That's what his sin is. So that's the way he's bearing. So he's basically taken it on himself to stop. I might have to come back a little bit. So essentially, what is trying to happen, what's trying to take place, is Nyarlathotep is trying to make the world of this side remember the events of the other side. And the way he's doing it is he's trying to manipulate people to recreate the events of Innocent Sin. So, like, the air museum catching fire, things happening in gold.
All the stuff that Tatsuya Sudo was doing in, like, the first third of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And so the reason Tatsuya was getting involved was because he was trying to stop all that. Like, he doesn't want the world to remember, because if the world remembers, then it goes back to the other side, which is destroyed. Like, the only thing that exists in the other side is Sumari, correct?
Yeah, it's bleak. Very bleak.
So yeah, Tatsuya is trying to carry this on his shoulders, bearing in mind he's 17 years old. So he's
I mean, a little bit of a messianic figure here.
Right, exactly.
This is interesting to me because it does jive with Nyarlathotep's idea of just wanting humanity to end itself, and this is all really interesting. I really need to finish this damn thing.
You do. I mean, like,
you just got to the interesting part.
You did, yeah. I mean,
I got to the interesting. I'm not going to finish it right after we're done recording, because I have like 2 games to play for the podcast and for review, and I think I need at least one more Yakuza game in me just to distance myself from SMT before I revisit this thing. But I don't know if we mentioned this, but at least some of the Persona games are a cosmic bet between Nyarlathotep and Philemon, where Nyarlathotep believes humanity is inherently self-destructive, and Philemon believes that humanity is inherently, survivors. So in Persona 1 and Persona 2, they each do... Philemon gives a few people Persona powers, and Nyarlathotep does some dastardly thing, and they just sort of watch it play out, with the other caveat being that Nyarlathotep cheats and usually intervenes more directly than Philemon does.
He can. Philemon can't. That's the difference. Like, Nyarlathotep is literally humanity, whereas he has the ability to intercept at any point. But I mean, he's the shadow of humanity, right? Philemon cannot intercept at all.
Yeah, Nyarlathotep is the id that's inside of all of humanity, and Nyarlathotep is the superego that is a humanity's ideal that cannot interfere.
Right. Yeah.
And like with that being in the background and this playing out this way, I don't know. It's all so fascinating. But people do remember, or at least start to remember. So when Maya remembers, does she die again?
No, so it takes like all 5 of the original when I say mask circle, I mean like the 5 main characters of Innocence in
the people who agreed to forget at the end of Innocent Sin, they all have to remember.
I think you mean the Phoenix Ranger Featherman arc.
Yes, I do. Yes, of course, I do. Yeah.
So what happens when all of them remember?
Well, they don't. Well, they might. Okay.
They're on the edge of... It depends on the choices you make in the final dungeon, technically, right?
Yeah, it does, yeah. Which affects the difficulty of both fighting the shadows in Menardi Mandala, which is the final dungeon, and also the fight before the final boss.
So if you choose to have them remember, the final sequence of bosses is way harder.
You don't necessarily choose them to remember. So... I know we're jumping around a bit. There's stuff in the middle that I want to bring up, and there's stuff about like things that I want to bring up, and I know other people do. But like in the final dungeon, every character who isn't Tatsuya has to face their own shadow, and you're given a choice which basically involves Maya making a decision. And like for instance, like Ulala's is her confronting her shadow, because Ulala's great. Poor thing is that like poor thing, not sin, but like she she tried to kill Maya, right? And she's like unhappy with herself. She wants to be better. She's had bad luck with men and things like that, and she's just jealous. And she like has been so protective of Maya all this time because she made that Joker call, and like she thought that Joker was going to kill Maya because of her stupid actions. So her shadow is like, you are selfish and everything, blah blah blah. And Ulala's like, I don't know what to say to this. And your choices as Maya are like, tell her what to say, or you're the only person who can make that decision, Ulala. So if you pick the first option, then you make the boss harder, and you potentially make Ikichi remember the other side. If you tell Ulala to come up with her own answer, that's the right answer, and it makes the boss slightly easier. So it's more like moral decisions. Like Balfu's is really similar.
And
And that
it's about the loss of his fiance.
It's about Miki, yeah. And it's basically to tell him, like, you know, accept that you are blaming yourself, like, you know, but you have to kind of move on, kind of thing. And similar with Katsuya, you have to choose to believe in Katsuya because Katsuya's shadow confronts him about leaving his, like, he's leaving his dream of being a patissier in order to become a detective. And his shadow's like, well, you hate your brother and your father because you've had to do this. And then Katsuya's like, no, I don't. And then he pulls a gun on Tatsuya. And then it gives you an option to like stop him or just say, I believe in you. And if you say, I believe in you, then that's the right answer, because Katsuya's love for his family is stronger, or as strong as his dislike for his, like, he's had to take on these responsibilities kind of thing. So it's like, you know, it's accepting, it's the same as Innocent Sin. They're accepting the shadow and accepting the bad part of them, for lack of a more appropriate or better
same
term.
as
Persona 4.
every Persona game,
Exactly,
right? To some
correct.
degree.
Yeah.
Most of the Persona games are about, you know, confronting the part of yourself that you dislike and accepting it.
Right.
Sometimes very, very literally, like in Persona 4, and sometimes more conceptually, like in Persona 3. But the
Or as literally as possible in Persona 5.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I'm just comparing it directly to Innocent Sin because I think these two are the two games that have done it the best out of all of them. Like,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, you have these two characters that represent the id and the super ego, and the main cast representing the self and confronting the shadow. It's not really high philosophy, but it takes these concepts from philosophy and psychology, but presents them in a JRPG way that is like that is a lot less blunt than what happens in Persona 4 and 5. This again, this makes me way more excited to revisit this game after I finally freaking play Tales of Arise this month. Let's roll it back a little bit. How do we get here exactly?
So Torifune is next, isn't it? But there's a conversation under. You get onto a train. You have to spread a rumor about a train, right? That you have to board. And I think maybe one of the most important conversations in the game happens on this train between Tatsuya and Balfu. And it kind of like pins down this like adult-child dynamic or like thing, the question that goes through the entire game. And there's a couple of instances, like we've already said, Tatsuya. I'm sorry, I'm talking quite a lot. Tatsuya,
Go.
Tatsuya like asks Balfu, like, what does it mean to be an adult? Like he kind of swallows his pride. And Balfu goes, it's no different actually. It still hurts. And then everybody is silent on that train.
Yeah, it just gets harder, I think he says.
It just gets harder, is right. Yeah. Which I was like,
oof.
Yeah, why? Because I remember like being a teenager and being like, I want to be an adult. And even like sometimes now I'm kind of like, I want to be in my 30s kind of thing. I'm like, no, don't be like that. Because, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree. I think it's more prescient in Japan, where like there's a definite line between your happy teenage life and your drudgery of adult life. My adult life is much better than my teenage life, personally. So I wouldn't quite agree with Balfu on that one. Not the inspirational leader, perhaps.
I mean, I love Balfu's bleak personality, and especially I love his clashes with Katsuya.
Yeah.
There's something I even though I don't totally agree with all of it, I think there is something to the idea that it's being an adult is the same as being a teenager, except that there's more and it gets harder like that. I mean that gives me a big Ikiru vibe. Also, that scene in Parks and Recreation where April tells Andy, "Look, no adults actually know what they're doing. Everyone is out here.
Yeah.
Everyone
We're
is
all
out
making
here.
it up.
Yeah, everyone is out here just winging it." And like that, like sort of acknowledging that and accepting that makes me feel better about it being an adult, because I don't always feel like an adult. I'm 35 years old, and I wonder if it's okay for me to sit at the grown-ups table at Thanksgiving still sometimes. 'Cause I don't feel.
The answer is no.
Yeah, I know. Actually, the cousin table is actually really fun nowadays, because
I know, right?
because all of us can drink wine now.
Oh God.
But
Agreed.
and listeners, if you aren't aware, I have something like 20 aunts and uncles and about a dozen cousins. So if it's,
Oh, wow.
if it sounds like I have some aunt or uncle that told me something at some time, it's probably true, because I never run out of them. But anyway, this somewhat heavy, somewhat thoughtful, concept of what being an adult is versus what being a kid is. And one game started predominantly teenagers, and one game starring predominantly adults, and confronting some of the same events as teenagers versus as adults. I've almost accidentally said children at least twice now. I mean, this seems cool and powerful to me. Like this is a game I want to see through to the end now.
Yeah, you should.
I was going to say, like, I think that, like, it draws this, like, really interesting dividing line between, like, adulthood and childhood. And it also, like, blends that line because, like, it doesn't imply, it says straight up, and I apologize if someone already said this because I was in the bathroom. It says straight up that Maya is in love with Tatsuya. Like, it just says it. Like, it's the ending, which I think is troubling in its own way. But, like, it just says that she's in love with him and, whatever. And, like, that's the whole, like, the heartbreak of the ending of, like, because at the end, like, a motorcycle goes by that Tatsuya's on, and he's, like, this side Tatsuya now because he's forgotten the other side. And she just, like, watches him. And it's, like, this cool anime cutscene. But I'm also like, wait a second. You're an adult. What? But it also draws this line that, like, I think is... Like, I appreciate it, like, as a teacher, like, as a person who thinks it is my responsibility to take on the troubles of children constantly, and to try to help them, like, deal with the mistakes they've made. I appreciate that, but also, like, it's not like there's, like, some bright line in the sand, like, hey, you're 17, and, like, everything you do is fine, and now you're 19, and now, like, everything you do is now your responsibility. Which is basically the way this game presents it.
Yeah, to a degree, I agree.
And I think that's a little troubling, but I do respect the overall message that, like, older people who understand things need to help people, and also, like, that adults need to help children with the mistakes they've made. And it's not just the mistake that Tatsuya made at the end of Innocent Sin. It's the mistake that he made when he was 8 or however old he was, when he locked Maya in Araya's shrine. And I respect that. Like, it's not just this kid's responsibility to deal with his pain and his suffering and all the suffering that he has caused, because Tatsuya has caused enormous amounts of suffering.
Yeah.
And the forgiveness and the beauty in that forgiveness, I think, is really moving and really touching. But I think I wish it was a little more universal, because it kind of, to me, says, like, hey, like, you were all teenagers in Innocent Sin, so of course you screwed up. Like, well, I don't know. Like, I know adults who screw up just as much as the teenagers do. Like, it's a little disrespectful to teenagers in some ways, to me, actually.
I think that Leona touched upon something earlier that it might be a cultural thing, because in Japan, there really is a hard line in the sand between finishing high school and then being expected to comport yourself as an adult, whether you go to university or not. It's a bigger or darker line than what we're used to living in the United States or the United Kingdom. So, like, and that's probably why so many Japanese stories, both RPGs and manga and what have you, are about teenagers, is because, like, it feels, for many Japanese adults, it's probably their most halcyon days, or the days where they had the most freedom. Again, because after a certain point, you become the salaryman trapped in Ikiru. But this is, you're all exactly on point. Like, this game is exploring, the responsibilities, like the freedom of being a teenager versus the responsibilities of being an adult, and adults taking the burden from teenagers so they can be teenagers. I'm not making exactly the same point you are, Zach, but I'm echoing some of the things you said. I apologize.
No, you're right on track with me.
Yeah, it's. I mean, what other RPGs confront this? There's
Oh,
there's
God.
RPGs about teenagers. There's a couple RPGs about struggling adults, which I mean, again, everyone should play Yakuza Like a Dragon, and but this is a game that in its two halves, Innocence and Eternal Punishment, sort of challenges both of those ideas, and that's awesome.
Yeah, these games, it's amazing that it's been so long since they're made, and yet something it's just never been recreated or even closely touched on is like the adult themes that go on in the sort of merging of the two sort of times in people's lives like that. I can't think of another RPG that really like focuses on your typical teenage JRPG protagonist and adult JRPG protagonist. Is that ever? Can you think of any?
I mean, there's games with time skips that recontextualize a different character's attitude. To a degree, Near Replicant does that, but not in the same way that Persona 2 does. I'm not sure I have played an RPG that is this specific about that concept.
Yeah, it's amazing for how many teenage protagonists we have.
Right.
I love playing a JRPG these days and getting lectured about life from a 15-year-old. It's great.
It's just my day to day, so I'm used to it.
I mean, I think we need to play more RPGs where you can, in the middle of battle, just get drunk with some demons to try and appeal to them.
Right.
Maybe we'll get that in Shin Megami Tensei 5. Maybe we'll get that in Yakuza Like a Dragon 2.
They're all kids in Shin Megami Tensei 5, though, aren't they? Like, it's a school kid again who turns into this, like, demon, thing. Yeah.
But there's also different political factions and secret organizations that are teaming up with different demons. And
they're all drinking then, aren't they? Definitely.
Yeah, so
that sounds like some Nocturne to me.
Yeah,
sorry.
Sounds like Devil Survivor stuff to me as well.
This sounds like SMT.
Yes, SMT.
I don't know how all of it exactly happens, but there is definitely some law route, chaos route, neutral route stuff to navigate. But
I hope they're more like, this is totally off topic. Like, we're really off topic now, but like, I hope it's more like Nocturne sort of take on law, chaos, and neutrality. Because I find that a lot more nebulous, I guess. Like, it's they're kind of law, or it's like law but evil, or law but also like a different sort of law. And I really like Nocturne's take on it compared to other SMT games where it's just like law is authoritarian dictatorship angels and chaos is anarchistic.
Yeah.
Every man for himself.
Listeners, if you want to hear us discuss the different ending paths in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, you can listen to the podcast from about a month and a half ago that both Zach and I were on, where basically every path is just a different version of struggling through hell or pressing the reset button Philemon style. But the all right, if we're talking about a Shin Megami Tensei game next month and a Shin Megami Tensei game from a few months ago, maybe we're near the end of the episode. Was there anything else we definitely want to touch on before we shut it down?
I want more Alana theories.
God, there's so much that we
Like
haven't
more,
got time
give me
to
more.
do, which is really like,
Come on, give us at least one, Alana.
Okay, give us some
Give us one.
give us some greatest hits at least.
Okay. So, well, I think Tatsuya and Maya are definitely like the two standout characters between the games. I think, interestingly, the game that Tatsuya is the protagonist in, Maya is the best character. The game Maya is the best the character in it, Tatsuya is the best character. But like Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment, and I've used like this analogy of like a coin. Like, you know, they're basically two sides of the same coin. Same things happen. Blah blah blah. Same characters are there. Things like that. The Arcana aren't as well planned out with the characters, especially like well, they are a little bit like, you know, interestingly enough, going back to Long Wang Dragon, if you put in like your characters like birthday months, so if you put like Katsuya's birthday month in, he gets which is December. It says that he's on honors justice, which is pretty much what he is, and like his persona Arcana is justice, so that's basically who he is. But like, there's not as much as interesting stuff in there. I think Ulala's is slightly troubling because she has Callisto, which is the
no.
Greek nymph who was raped by Zeus.
Oh, no.
And then,
one of the nymphs that was raped by Zeus.
Correct, one of the nymphs, and then
Was this while he was a swan or not?
No, that's Leda.
It's the
That's
bird,
Leda,
isn't
okay.
it? Yeah, it's the hawk, isn't it? And
I
then
thought
her
Callisto's the one that gets turned into a bear by
by
escape
Hera.
him. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Callisto was also a character in Xena, Warrior Princess.
She was, yeah.
I loved her.
And then her
Wow,
ultimate
deep
persona
cut.
is Asteria, who
Yeah,
is
and-
one of them who gets away from Zeus, but then eventually later on doesn't, you know.
And also Asteria was I think a daughter of a Titaness who represented the stars in the sky, and Ulala being interested in
Yes.
fortune telling makes a connection there. Callisto weirdly was I think she was a ward of Artemis, which is again
Correct.
Maya's persona, and Artemis may be the only goddess in the Greek pantheon that didn't have relations with Zeus.
Right. Yeah. But like Tatsuya and
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go on.
Maybe not Athena as well, but sorry, please continue.
No, but Tatsuya and Maya, interestingly, by the end of Eternal Punishment, so like you beat Nyarlathotep properly this time, and Nyarlathotep's like, okay, well, I'm always going to be around because I am humanity's shadow, and like we knew this, and especially if you like listen to the last 2 episodes from last year, you know that like Nyarlathotep is the collective unconsciousness. He is the evil of
There's
all
no
people.
getting rid of him.
You're never
Yeah.
gonna get rid of him.
He probably influenced Mitsuru's grandfather in Persona 3 to start the events of that game, and also represents the sort of underlying darkness that you're always exploring in Persona 5.
So yeah, the Kajiro group apparently broke off from the Nanjo group. So they're part of Nanjo's family's like company at some point. But yeah, so the way they properly beat Nyarlathotep is when he says that is all of them going, yeah, we know that. We'll just beat you again, and that's kind of it. So they just accept it. But it's interesting.
Not more they can do, really.
No, exactly, and it's kind of interesting by the end of the game. Like, well, most of Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment, Maya and Tatsuya have basically, whereas like other characters have flipped their arcana around throughout the game, Maya and Tatsuya never really do that. They've always been reverse arcana. So Tatsuya was, even though like he comes across as confident in Innocent Sin, like there are multiple times in that game where he doesn't come across as a leader. Like it's always Maya who's making the decisions, and like not being a leader is like the reversed arcana of the sun. And then like Maya turning down her shadow in Innocent Sin is her like saying like she's confused, she's scared, she's repressing the bad side of her basically, or the side she doesn't want to acknowledge. But by the final dungeon, they both flip them. So Tatsuya has kind of realized, I don't want to say he's realized what it means to be an adult, because that's kind of not it, but like Balfu says to him like, oh, you know, it's actually not all bad being an adult. And Tatsuya's like, I know, I can do this now. I can go home and rebuild my like my home. And he's kind of smiling when he goes away. And both Tatsuya from the other side and this side Tatsuya, because one of the ending cutscenes is Tatsuya and Katsuya talking on the beach. And Tatsuya's like, I want to be a detective now. How do you do that? And so the two of them are kind of reconciling. So he's kind of reached like the son's kind of normal stance, which is to be happy and positive, which is interestingly enough Maya's whole let's think positive kind of thing.
True.
But Maya, in her fight, because you fight her shadow as well, the choice you have to make with her, so you know what I was saying earlier in Monado Mandala, when you confront those shadows, you have to make a choice, and if you make the wrong choice, you make the boss more powerful. Hers is her looking at her shadow, and she can either reject it, or she can accept that looking at her shadow makes her sad. And that's the right answer, because it's her actually acknowledging, finally, her shadow. So it's her, like, understanding who she is. And a lot of Maya in this game is about her kind of like breaking through this illusion or this mirror world and slowly remembering the other side, because she doesn't remember it all at once. It's very, very gradual, which is the moon arcana flipped the right side round. And there's a lot of illusions. This is kind of a real crash course on this, so I really recommend people go look it up. But like, there's multiple meanings to the moon being one, you know, a symbol of being the mother. Artemis is also she's the goddess of fertility. Maya, the persona or the god, is the mother of Hermes. And there's a lot of mother symbolism in Eternal Punishment.
Yeah, and June was Hermes was June's
Yes.
persona, and June looked at Maya like a mother figure. So losing her was, you know, hugely damaging psychologically to him.
Yeah, and I like to try and think that Tatsuya thinks like that as well. As much as the game wants me to push them to thinking that Tatsuya loves Maya, there's definitely like a
Tatsuya
big
loves June.
Tatsuya loves June because June is the last person you save in the final dungeon. There you go, it's canon.
I really think there are 3 better love interests for Tatsuya than Maya.
There's one, it's June.
June is at the top of the list, but I also would take Lisa or the girl from the track team ahead of Maya, because it's just a little weird that Maya has this infatuation with a high school boy, and while like I think they're both good characters, I don't think they have chemistry. The real chemistry is with June, with the watch and the lighter in the opening cutscene, and you making the choice near the end of Innocent Sin for who Tatsuya loves. And with June's love for Tatsuya and Maya and the others just being twisted into the mask circle and Innocent Sin. It's like, again, Maya, not a top tier love interest for Tatsuya.
To be fair to Maya, at the end she does walk away from Tatsuya, like in a way that's like, I'm not approaching Tatsuya again. And that's exactly. That I'm drawing the line between what's happened and who this boy is compared to the boy I loved, which was the other side June. This other side Tatsuya. This is a different Tatsuya. So
and that's almost the reverse of the ending cutscene in Innocent Sin, where
after
the credits roll, Eikichi, Lisa, Tatsuya, and Maya, and I think also June, all pass each other at at a busy intersection. And
it's the same intersection.
Oh, yeah, it's the same intersection. Okay, so and Maya waves at Tatsuya, and Tatsuya has like a flickering of recognition, and maybe that's the spark that has the two Tatsuya.
Yeah, that was the moment. That was the moment Naryathotep kind of manipulated everyone to be at that point.
Yeah,
to make Tatsuya remember.
He guided them together, and
he guided them all to that point.
Boy,
yeah,
this game is good as hell. Anyway,
it's really good.
There's a ton of stuff. Like I'm actually sad I can't get to most of it, and I feel a little bad. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff about like illusions and mirrors and the moon and mothers, because like Eternal Punishment is supposed to be like it's the mirror of Innocent Sin. Like it's not necessary, but like, you know, how Innocent Sin was about fatherhood, and interestingly enough, you know, Tatsuya has never had a good role model because he doesn't get on with his dad, he doesn't get on with his brother, and his dad's absent. So why does he's got this warped perception of what adults need to be like? Of course he has, because he's never had a good one.
Probably also related to how he acts out in school, and he has a bit of a reputation for being a delinquent, when really he's just more adult than a lot of the teenagers that he interacts with.
Yeah, I think his aloofness was just misinterpreted as being a delinquent. Personally, I don't think he really got up to much. But,
I don't think so.
Yeah. I want to say that I'm really happy for Alala at the end. She has a little moment where she talks about stopping trying to find herself and starts saying that I'm going to make myself. I really liked that. I thought that was a good closing for her arc, where she's like, she's not taking the passive role in her life anymore. She's taking a more active role. I'm going to make myself the person I want to be. And I thought that was really good for her.
That's a good flip of her arcana as well. Yeah.
You don't need to tell me what happens to Baofu, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't go back to being a prosecutor again.
Not really, no, but he does go back to being called Kaoru. Him and Ulala start up a man-searcher business.
Yeah, they work with Ulala. It's really
cool.
cute.
Oh, wait, they team up with our favorite bartender?
Bartender? No, I don't know whether they team up with her, but they do their
the ramen lady.
Yeah, the ramen lady.
Sure.
You're obsessed to make her a bartender.
It's just the way that she sits in her restaurant makes her look like a bartender. But it's I believe she's just a proprietress.
You know, every bowl of ramen in that shop has a healthy dose of cigarette ash inside the bowl.
The most delicious ramen.
Yeah.
If we're talking about our favorite ramen toppings, I guess it's time to end the episode. No. It's not time yet. I have one last thing I want to present to you. If our wildest dreams were to come true and we were to get Persona 2, the Paradox Collection, let's say remastered for modern consoles, what's something that you would want added or removed or fixed?
I would just want the encounter rate to be lower. I know you were about to start, and I started anyway.
No, that's fine.
The encounter rate is too high, and I would like it to be lower.
I think every game with random encounters should have a Bravely Default-esque slider to let you turn them on or off if you like. But that's just me. I think that it would, I mean, naturally it would have things like more personae, more fusions, more things. I just wish that it was a little bit better communicated to the player. Even if it just means every dark secret has one person in town that will mention it. even if it's that buried, that would still be a little bit more transparent than what we have.
You know what? I love this game so much. It's really hard to like think of what I'd like to change about it.
I mean, I would like the map to be visible on screen at all times, at least a little bit bigger.
Yeah, these quality of life changes totally.
Yeah, like give yourself a proper mini map that you can go to a full menu map or a mini map or no map. Basically, a modern JRPG map.
Yeah, maybe like make I don't know, like once you've hit a demon contact with certain demons that have certain traits, like mark up what ones would work best for what. Do you know what I mean? Because like you get like angry, sad demon who, embarrassingly enough, the one I always remembered were the ones that liked Balfu, because like they would say something about they would say something really sexist, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember you. You're the sexist one. Like,
you're the sexist bird.
Yeah, I can just wiretap you and just like
maybe either give the player more clues or communicate better the kind of demon you're dealing with.
Right. Yeah.
That's not bad. And Leona wouldn't change a thing.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would like maybe a different way to collect cards.
Especially full cards. Oh my
god. Full cards.
Jeez.
Especially.
I really wanted to get those Persona with the samurai, the princess, and the retainer, which are, interestingly enough, Tatsuya, Maya, and Jun in a rumor from thousands of years ago. It's wild. But you need like 300 full cards, and I had 0, and I was like, well, I can't get any of these anymore because I didn't do the mapping, because screw that.
And to find full cards, you basically have to perfectly nail 4 or 5 semi-random conversation pieces in a row in a demon.
It's impossible. I've tried for hours. I can't get it.
It's real hard. I tried a little bit playing Innocent Sin a couple of years ago, and I did not get far at all. It is miserable grinding, farming for fool cards in these games. So a better way to get fool cards. Leona wins the episode with that small change made to our fake Persona 2 remakes.
Just so we can see the personas. Like, what are they? I've never known.
I like the times, really. I wish they had a little bit more time to shine. I wish the ultimate persona in this game were better as well. They do have a Grand Cross equivalent, which is like Dragon Cross, which is a reference to like the 12 dragons, but that's kind of it. It's not as thematically important as Grand Cross was in Innocent Sin. So Eternal Punishment is wild, but nowhere near as wild. I wouldn't even say it was wild, actually. Like, Innocent Sin has so much, like, even the premise of, like, oh, you're fighting Nazis being manipulated by, like, Lovecraft's, like, great big demonic splodge of whatever.
Daddy.
Oh, God.
Did Leona just call Hitler daddy?
No, I called Nyarlathotep daddy.
Yeah, but
yeah, he's the great daddy, right?
Okay, gosh. Now it's time to end the episode for real.
Yep.
All right. Listeners, oh God, I'm sorry. I'm still getting Lovecraft daddy out of my head right now. I have to.
Please do not say that again.
I need some time to excise this. But listeners, thank you so much for joining us on 2 full episodes on Persona 2 Innocent Sin. We had a lot of fun playing it and talking about it. I still will have a lot of fun playing it when I eventually get back to it this year. But again, I think I need to cleanse the palate a little bit with some Japanese gangsters punching each other before I can get into the right headspace for it. But next week we are doing a special confessional episode. Zach, you, Corey, and I confess to our sins, some of which are more glaring than others, and our sins not being of the innocent sin, eternal punishment variety, but of what RPGs we have or haven't played and are most embarrassed to not
Some
have
of
done
Corey's
so.
sins are
Some of
not innocent, and his punishment should be eternal.
some of Corey's
Oh, I know
sins
what it is,
are
then.
surprising, and my sins, because I've already done 2 of those episodes, I had to dig kind of deep, and they get a little weird. So
That's true.
Corey's sins are large, my sins are weird. So, but if you want to
Hmm.
figure out what that means, please listen to next week's episode, Confession Part 3. But also coming later this month, we're doing 2 episodes on Cosmic Star Heroine, that indie JRPG styled game done by Z-Boyd Games. I have started that, but I still have to make a lot of progress before I'm ready to talk about it. But I gave to that Kickstarter years ago and never finished the game, despite like spending enough on the Kickstarter to add things to the game. So we'll talk about that.
The battle system is very fun in that game.
Yeah, yes. I played about half of it many years ago and gave up. I am back into it, starting fresh this time, and I agree that game has a really interesting battle system worth discussing. But we're going to discuss much more than Cosmic Star Heroine going forward. We are doing 2 episodes on Ys Origin in November. I haven't played that game since binging every Ys game really hard in 2014, so I'm looking forward to getting 7 years of perspective and trying that game again on a different console. And also in November, where I am taking a break from the podcast, so we're going to have a few people discuss some video games I know nothing about. We're doing 2 Star Trek adventure games in November of next month. Okay, November of next month is just November. That's my bad. But we have some people that love Star Trek and love RPGs, and I only love one of those things, so they are the exact right panel to discuss those games. But listeners, if you want to reach out to us, the best way to do so is retro@rpgfan.com. You can also visit rpgfan.com's message boards, our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, YouTube, Twitch. All of them are called RPG Fan or RPG Fan.com, and we have stuff going on every single day, whether it's a review on the site or a stream on Twitch. There's also 3 other fine podcasts on Retro Encounter. No, 3 other fine podcasts on RPG Fan, which include Random Encounter every 2 weeks about randomness, Rhythm Encounter every 2 weeks about rhythmness, Phoenix Edge every not exactly on a regular schedule, but they talk about all kinds of things and are mostly about edginess. You can review those 3 podcasts or Retro Encounter on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, however you are finding us. Please continue to find us. Please give us feedback. And if you want to give us feedback at our individual social media and not on RPG Fan in general, let's tell them how, starting with you, Alana.
You can find me on Twitter at Alana Hagues, or you can find me on Discord as Alana.
Now, Zach.
You can email me at zachw@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on Discord at zachw.
Now, Leona.
You can find me at Star Mongoose on Twitter, Discord, Twitch. Yeah, those ones.
Leona, don't make me do this every time.
And there's a game that someone made, and it's yeah.
Itch.io.
Itch.io, yeah, they're great as well.
It's called Immortal Saga, and you can find it. We've got news articles on the website. You can join our Discord.
Wow. Thank you.
I was gonna let Leona off the hook, but then Alana came in like the cavalry. But, listeners, if you want to find me on social media, on Twitter, I am at The Real Monsoon most of the time, at Evoker for Dogs other times, and on RPG Fans Discord, I am Monsoon Mike. So, I have a lot of thinking about this game to do, and eventually, once I've emotionally recovered from the Undersea Ruins, I will revisit it by the end of the year, I promise. Listeners, thank you, good night, and good luck.